A few weeks ago, I started making watercolour bookmarks and I have become slightly addicted. And judging by your reaction to the films I've been sharing, you're addicted too. So this week, I want to show you, whoops, turn round, how I made these little watercolour and collage bookmarks. I think they're rather a fun way of getting into mixed media. My name's Liz Chatterton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire, and every week I share a tip, trick or technique I wish I'd known about ages ago. This week it's watercolour mixed media bookmarks. What I like about doing bookmarks is that it's just a great way of experimenting because it's a no pressure environment. In the end, you're using a piece of paper that big and you might end up with something rather pretty. And then you can give it to a friend or do whatever you like with them. I started these bookmarks by putting down stripes of watercolour like I did in the previous landscape bookmarks. If you haven't seen that film, I'll put a link. Then I used fineliner pens and some acrylic pens to do some patterns on the background, a few stripes, a few dots, things like that. And then I applied some collage. I've got a little bit of map there. I thought it's a bookmark, so I've got a little bit of dictionary there and I put a little bit of music. Finally, I've used a napkin for the flowers and indeed the bee. After that first film, people said they like these because they're not intimidating. They're very accessible for anyone. And that's why I thought actually collaging with a napkin, I'll show you how you do that, is lovely because even if you feel that you can't paint or can't draw, you can get absolutely beautiful effects. So what do we need? Well, we need a piece of watercolour paper, approximately 5.5 centimetres by 20, which for those who still use inches is about 2.2 inches by 7.7, 7.8, something like that. You need some watercolours. Great opportunity to use up anything that you've got left over in your palette, or just a little set. Tape just leaves clean edges. If you don't like having those clean edges, then don't tape them down. That's no problem. I just think that border looks quite nice. We might need some acrylic markers if you've got them. We might need some little fine liner drawing pens if you've got them. We definitely need some collage materials, and I've got a couple of pages out of an old dictionary because say these are bookmarks, or you could use a page out of an old book. Before you shoot me, because I've been ripping up books, the binding had totally gone on this, all the pages were falling out, and this dictionary was so out of date and falling to pieces. So I really do treasure books. You need a napkin in whatever design you've got. I'll show you how to prepare that. You'll need some sort of glue. You can just use PVA glue, so that's school glue. I think you call it Elmer's glue in America. Or you could use gel medium if you've got that. You'll probably need a good sharp knife for trimming the edges. If you have a corner punched around the corners, that's brilliant. It's not necessary. If you want to put a tassel on, you can get these very cheaply online. I actually got 100 for £4.99. Need a hole punch if you're putting a tassel on. The first thing is to tape down the edges, just to make sure that that paint doesn't seep under. Do make sure it's stuck down properly, but be careful when you take the tape off because we don't want it to rip the paper. What you can do is stick the tape onto your clothing and that'll take away a bit of the stickiness. This is the napkin I plan to use, so I'm going to pick out greens and pinks and yellows in my background. Just using this one, I might pick out more blues and greens and pinks. A mucky leftover palette, so I'm going to have blue sky as a good starter. Then I'm going to put a little green. If this bleeds up into the sky, don't worry, or you can leave a little dry area, something like that, so the different stripes don't bleed into each other or do only in places. I'm going to do a darker. I'm going to grab some different colours. So I wanted some yellow in there. As you come forward, think about maybe making the stripes a little bit darker and a little bit bigger, because they would be in a real landscape. The distance tend to be quite pale, often quite blue, and as things come closer, they tend to get sort of a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer. Vary the widths of your lines as well. But do remember, some of this is going to be covered by collage, so don't be too precious about it. How some of the paint starts to go into each other. And if that happens and you like it, you could actually encourage it to happen. Much as these are bits of fun, exploring different colour combinations and different effects as well. So you can learn a huge amount just by doing these. I rather like the yellow I used here, so I'm going to have a yellow sky on this one. Over green in the distance. Blue. I'm using a little flat brush. To be honest, it really doesn't matter what sort of brush you use. Round, a little flat, really doesn't matter. That green's got some punch to it, hasn't it? How that indigo is going up into the green above it because it's all wet. Best thing is not to go back and fiddle, because we just want it all to look lovely and fresh. I tried to keep those separate because I reckon pink and green might mix to make rather a nasty colour. Oh, but look at that blue. Just goes straight in. Loving that pattern. Those are so going to get turned into two trees, aren't they? For a bit of a blue sky. So this is stage one, and we'd better let these dry properly. You can use a hairdryer to speed it up. The only problem is that the hairdryer may loosen your tape and that might start to peel off. So if you can let them dry naturally, it's probably better. I'm grabbing these fine liner pens. I mean, these are from Ohuhu. You can get all sorts of different brands. You can look for Micron, Uniball, or things like that. Basically, you want something that is waterproof. But you could just use an ordinary ballpoint pen if you want. You might want to think about doing finer lines in the distance and heavier lines coming close to you if you've got different widths. If you haven't got different widths, don't worry about it. So I'm just going to put in a very distant horizon. Something like that. And then I'm going to come forward and, oh, shall we make these sort of into bushes and sort of a bit of a hedge, put some branches, very fine line. And you can let your imagination wander or use the marks that the watercolour has given you just as a bit of inspiration. And then we can come forward. Don't know, we could put a little fence if we want, or just some more lines. You don't have to be something. These are just calling out to be some sort of tree, aren't they? These wonderful feathery marks, so I'm going to go round those. Aren't they gorgeous? They look like underwater corals. You could do a really nice one right in the same way of sort of different stripes for the sea, and you could put corals in. Wouldn't that be pretty? And again, look, I've got a beautiful mark here, so I'm going to outline it, though it may end up getting covered by a bit of collage. Now, I'm loving this really rich yellow colour. So I've got these acrylic paint marker pens. You just shake them, and let's find a little bit of paper, pump them up and down, and then they're ready to go. Again, this was a set from a Hoo. I've done a whole review on those and I love them. Let's put a big yellow sun in the sky. Put some sort of yellow lines there, maybe a few yellow dots in this field. Would like is some vertical lines, so I'm going to go back and just do some little vertical lines. So use it as an opportunity to practice mark making and pattern making and see what appeals to you. I'm a bit of a sucker for dots usually, but today I'm feeling a bit liney. I'm not sure that actually I like that, so I'm going to carry on with the horizon a bit like that. So if you do something you don't like, well, luckily we've got some collage which we can use to disguise it. I'm going to grab a bit of, oh, I could do that vertical, couldn't I? That's a good idea. So this is a bit of my dictionary, and I'm going to make sure it's a bit wider than my page and think about putting it like that. So I like a ripped edge, and I thought that would rather echo that ripped edge, but of course you can actually cut things, and if you want really small strips you're going to have to cut it, because my ripping skills are not good enough to rip tiny little bits like that. But maybe we could put something across there. So I'm just laying it sort of in place to get a bit of an idea. Did I mention washi tape? If you've got any washi tape, which is just this sort of paper tape, that could be really nice. I've got a little set that I bought. I mean, it wasn't expensive. I think it cost £1 for all these things. So, you know, it's not silly money. But that's another way of introducing a bit of pattern. I have found, whether this will, is that they actually rip fairly straight. See, that's not bad. So maybe I could put that there, put that there. Not sticking it down properly yet, and I will stick the washi tape down regardless, because I find that it peels off after a while. So it is worth reading what's on your pieces of paper, just in case it was something not very nice. See, I'm thinking that could be quite nice there, like that. But I mentioned these napkins. Let me show you how you prepare them. So find a pretty napkin. I've got one with bees on. Floral napkins are really easy to get hold of. So a napkin has 3 layers, and you need to get rid of the back 2 layers. Easiest thing is to do it at the corner, but it does take a bit of effort. That's layer 1, and there's layer 2. So it can be a bit fiddly, but the reason you take those off is that then the top printed layer will actually become transparent when you stick it down. So you'll get the print, but the white background will sort of disappear, and it's a really nice effect. So get your napkin and take off the back 2 layers. Obviously I've already done that with this one. And then think what bit you want to use. And I was thinking these tall flowers at the front. And a super easy way of cutting it out is just to use a wet brush and go round the bits you want. Don't go too close to the print because the water will travel. Just wiggle round, and then you can gently pull it apart and it will rip where it is wet. So you get that really nice jagged edge which will blend in and disappear better than a cut edge, but that's really easy. There you go, that's my top tip of the day. And I was thinking, have it something like that. Stick it down. You can use ordinary white, I say school glue, Elmer's glue, PVA glue. You can use a gel medium if you've got it, which is what I've got. You want something that is going to dry clear. Don't worry about getting glue onto the surface because, as I say, it does dry clear. What's more important is to make sure the whole thing actually sticks down. Remember, I said I was going to glue the washi tape down because I was concerned it wouldn't be permanent enough. A little stripe of text here. Ooh. Here. You can actually put it on top as well to sort of seal it down. This was coming a bit lower here. Don't worry about the oh no, that was going to be vertical, wasn't it? Haha. Be careful of edges. See, don't worry about the overlaps because those are going to get trimmed off. Now we come to our napkin. Do not put glue on the napkin because it will just fall to pieces. So put glue where you want the napkin to stick. I wanted it to sort of go up the middle there, didn't I? Something like that. And then you can very carefully put it over the top. And can you see how, say, the background just disappears and goes transparent? Try not to get too many wrinkles if you can, but again, if you do, don't sweat it. It is only a bookmark. And hopefully we're making it very beautiful, but it's meant to be fun as well. I'm going to sort of overlap those. We need to let it dry before we can trim the edges off, because if you try and trim wet, it just sort of rips. So I can do the rest now. I have finished the painting and cut out all the bits. Now I'm going to stick them all down. If you were at all concerned that you'll forget what goes where as you move things, just take a little photo before you start sticking down. So if you're working in a journal or a mixed media painting, you might work in exactly the same way with these layers, using opaques and transparents and layering it all up. It's just we're doing it here on our bookmarks, and it makes it, say, really very low risk. Once you've finished with your glue brush, do make sure you wash it out, because if that dries on the brush, you're not getting it out. Once that's dry, just make a quick assessment whether you want to touch anything up, and these pens will just go over the top of, say, your napkin if you just want to brighten some of those things up like this. Or if you look and think, oh, I should have, you know, I want to strengthen that, or I should have done some more lines and some more marks, you could do those. Once you're totally happy, you need a really sharp knife, and we are going to gently, ooh, can you hear the rain? Score simply through the top bit of collage, using the tape as our guide. We don't want to cut all the way through, obviously, through the backing, but this is 300-gram watercolour paper, so hopefully that should not happen. And now the moment of truth. We start to gently peel the paper away. to reveal, hopefully, nice clean edges. If you find the tape slightly sticks or is tearing your paper, it's warm with the hairdryer. Should make it easier. And there you go, one down. Right, and there are 4 little collages. Now, if you want to finish them off and you happen to have one of these, we can just round off the corners. I say it's utterly optional, but these little corner punches are only a few pounds online. So might be something that you want to invest in. If you are going to put a tassel on, you'll need to put a hole in the appropriate place. You can measure it, you can eyeball it, depends how precise you are by nature. It's just a standard hole punch. Someone asked me about the size of hole punch, and frankly I didn't know that you could get them in different sizes. So just whatever you can get hold of, really doesn't matter. Now make sure you are really happy with what you've done just before you seal your little bookmarks, because I really would recommend that you seal them, because otherwise if your book happens to get wet or the bookmark gets wet, then the watercolour will come off on your book and you kind of don't want that. What I recommend to seal them with is a cold wax medium. You can either use something like Dorland's wax, which is an art wax, or maybe something like a chalk paint wax. You're looking for something that's clear, that won't yellow with time. Could coat it with something like Mod Podge if you want. Make sure it's a waterproof one, and then that will dry clear. You could use a spray varnish. That would also seal it. You can, of course, laminate them or put them in little bookmark, what do you call those? Yeah, little bookmark holders. I personally don't like the plasticky look to that, so that's the only reason I don't do that. If you want to wax, it's really so easy. And a tin like this, about £15, and would wax several million bookmarks. So it's a sort of white paste. You need to do both sides, and you just rub a very thin layer on and let it dry. It'll take maybe an hour to dry, depending how thin it is. And then you take a lint-free cloth and just wipe it over. And the wax does have an advantage in that it also slightly deepens the colours, which I rather like. And it dries to a sheen, not a shine, just a sheen. Which is, once the wax is dry, just get a little cloth and you just give it a gentle, just muck everything up, buff over to create a bit of a shine on it, or say a sheen more than a shine. The final thing is to put on your tassels and work out what colour you want to use where. Tassels are very easy, just put the end through and then loop it through like that. And there you go, our little collage watercolour bookmarks. So for anyone who says, oh, I can't paint, well, you can absolutely make these, because all we did was stripes of paint and then we used the napkin to paint on our flowers. And I really love that technique. But I also love on these just the little words coming through in places, or the little patterns of the map here, the music there, and well, this one we put a little washi tape on as well. And if you do something here that you rather like, you can then scale it up into a painting as well. So this could act as a little inspiration for taking things forward.